All right, hello YouTube, Muckluck here, obviously. And today I spent a few hours, let's say almost 3 hours, learning how to play Heal, Scepter, Herald. And this is my thoughts after learning how to play it. For those that don't know, I'm a very experienced healer in this game. I have been playing mostly Druid, Scrapper, Mechanist, and Scourge for years. And right now I'm doing a tour through all the other heal builds to see if the grass is greener on the other side, or maybe be like, oh man, this is not as good as I always thought it was, stuff like that. So let's look at this one. So first off, I want to say, I found there's a lot of ways to play Heal Herald. There's they don't have a just locked in, this is the heal build. They don't even have locked in specializations. For example, one of the builds I looked at used Invocation. And they made heavy use of this trait here, where every time you swap legends at less than 10 energy, you get back 25 energy. Another build I found that I tried out used Corruption, which primarily the reason was this one, where you get an extra pip of energy to work with. I ended up having the most success, or for me as a new player to this, I had the best success with Corruption. So just to show how it went for me, I'm gonna charge up to this. I am gonna activate some stuff. I'm gonna double tap this just to give some boons to my non-existent group. And we're just going to wail on this thing here and do that. And I'm going to hit this, which is gonna give us some barrier. And we're gonna double tap this again. And we are, look at all these lovely boons. And health is getting a bit low, so I am going to swap to Centaur for a little bit here. And do a few buttons here just to get my health back. And then we'll swap back to this and get back to this stuff. And we're occasionally providing, I'm gonna move out. You see, I've got my boons up. I kind of know the rotation a bit, and I was healing myself through an agony field at the same time. Now, let's talk about how we're doing things. Let's talk about how we're doing things here. And I need to burn these because part of the Corruption trait line is you give yourself small stacks of torment in trade-off for that extra pip of energy. So what I was doing, and again, I found from talking to people, there were multiple ways to do this. One way is to make a lot of use of otherworldly bond, where you target someone else. I don't know if this is going to work on the technician. You target someone else and you put this beam on them. And then 7 seconds later, you can activate it again. But after you connect the beam to someone, 7 seconds later, the button flips over. You can't hit the button early because that deactivates the beam. But after 7 seconds, the button flips over to a new button, which costs energy, and it gives your team some barrier. And if you hit that button, it costs the energy, but you only have a second or two to hit that button before it disappears. And if you hit it early, you deactivate the beam. If you hit it late, you don't get it. So there's this 1 or 2 second window that's 7 seconds away that you need to hit. I found this to be very cumbersome. I have to target an ally to do it, then go back to targeting the boss to attack him. So what I ended up doing was using a form of gameplay where I got the Might and Fury from somewhere else, so I didn't have to use this awful button. So what I was doing was I would use Facet of Light to keep regen up, Facet of Elements to keep swiftness up, Darkness for Fury, and Chaos for Prot. I would occasionally double tap Facet of Nature to extend all the boon durations, and I would double tap Facet of Strength just to give my team the Burst of Strength ability from that. And then when my energy got low, I would just, blast these out, and we've got more than enough boons. The boons are covered until they finish cooling down, but I would blast those out, my energy would go back up, and then I would turn them back on. Then, if something happened where I needed to, I would swap to Centaur. So I was not doing the gameplay mode where I was going like, I'm in Legend 1, I'm in Legend 2, I'm in Legend 1, I'm in Legend 2. I was basically staying in Legend 1, and then when things got spicy, I would swap to Legend 2. And Legend 2 could be Jalus, the dwarf, if you needed a lot of stability, or Centaur was kind of the default because it offers you, projectile block, it offers you some cleansing, it offers you a source of stability, which it felt bad. The stability source on Centaur comes from the tablet. So if you are in Centaur and you are on the move, it will explode behind you. So if you were in Dragon Stance, you have to swap to Centaur, move the tablet in front of you so you're moving into it, and explode it before you run out of it. So it's like 3 clicks if you were in the other stance. So Jalus stability felt way better than Centaur stability. However, Centaur stability was a option. You know, it was a tool that you did have if you wanted to use it, but it felt very jank to use it in many situations because it's like, okay, I need the stability and I have to hit multiple buttons to make the stability happen, and then it would be really tight to get it on time, whereas with the chrono that I played last time, I could just hit one button and instantly pulse the stability out, no delay at all. If you know, so the stability via Centaur felt very clunky. It worked, but it felt clunky. The energy system itself made this very difficult to learn. Out of Druid, Scrapper, Mechanist, Scourge, Berserker, Blade Sworn, and Chrono, this was hands down the most difficult one to learn. I spent more time in the prep room trying to figure out how to play this thing than any of those so far. And the reason is you've got 5 buttons, you've got 5 buttons. These all flip over to 5 different buttons. Then you go Centaur, there's 5 more buttons, and weapon swap for 5 more buttons. So it's where most classes have 5, weapon swap 5, and then 5 more. This class has 5, 5, 5, legend swap 5, flip these all over 5 more. So instead of 5 buttons over here, you have 15 over here that as a new player you have to learn. Now obviously the facets are just one move each, but they've got a activate side and a consume side. So as a newbie, I had to learn 15 things over here rather than 5. So there was a lot to take in. And you know, over time, I kind of figured most of it out. Let's see, what else? What else? Oh, I talked about not really liking the beam. The beam actually had a funny secondary problem. I was trying to use it on Temple of Phoebe. I used the beam on someone. They thought they were beamed by the boss and ran out to do the mechanic where you summon a clone. And I was like, what's he doing? He thought the boss mechanic beam was on him, and it was my beam mechanic that was on him. So it actually fooled another player into thinking they had to do something, and it wasn't a thing. Some strengths and weaknesses. Boon Upkeep on this build, as long as you're in a situation where you can be in the dragon stance often, it was so easy. It was so easy. Like, okay, right now, hold on. Look at my hands and look at the boons. Now, the alacrity is coming from the console to simulate me being grouped with someone giving me alacrity. Everything else there is just gaming. All right, like this is stupid. Oh, we're up to 21 stacks of might. All right, it is insane. 23, 25, almost 20 stacks, almost 25 stacks of might, and I'm not even auto attacking. And auto attacking gives more might. So Boon Upkeep on Herald is insanely easy. However, Heal on Demand felt weaker than other classes because one, you can use, for example, let me run in here so I get hit a bit. So your Shield 4 is an excellent heal. You target an area and blast it with a heal, but it costs energy. If your energy happens to be low, you can't use it. Shield 5, you channel a block, so you're not going to be taking much damage, and it heals you and everyone around you while you're blocking. Again, costs energy. If your energy's too low, you can't use it. You've got Staff 4, if you weapon swap, Staff 4 is a heal around you, and there's some little heals with Staff 1 and 2 that you can also do. Staff 5 is fantastic. It is actually one of the largest CCs in the game. If we, you know what, hold on. All right, so we've got a golem here with a break bar. He is just an average golem. If I use Staff 5, you see that? This, for those that don't know, Staff 5 on Rev is one of the largest crowd control skills in the game. As you move through a target, it does many hits of the interrupt. So the bigger the target is, the possibility of more interrupts actually is a factor. Now, if you are really good with Revenant, low energy is not an issue most of the time. I, of course, was a newbie. I had to learn not only 25 buttons instead of 15, as you know, most of the class. Like on the Chrono, I had to learn 15 buttons. 5 for one weapon, 5 for the other weapon, and 5 over here. On this, I had to learn 25 buttons, and then also I had to learn the whole energy management system. But you gotta tell you, not a fan, but it is what it is. So as it stands, of the classes, the heals that I've learned so far, this is the one I would least recommend to someone who is new to support and wants to try support. I spent 3 hours in the testing room trying to wrap my head around all the systems to make this functional. Yeah. Is rough. What else do we have here? Okay, so Otherworldly Bond felt so weird to use. I made a version, I played in a way where I didn't have to use it. Did not like. The 2 skill, it's all right. You use it on an enemy, and then 6 weeks later, your team gets a bit of barrier. The auto attack is fine. The auto attack, you hit the enemy, And you do like one hit, and then the second hit gives some might, and then the third hit gives a tiny bit of barrier. You can see I've got 900 barrier, 8, so it's like every third hit is 900 barrier to your team. Now, the constant regen on your team from Facet of Light and the constant barrier from your autos is actually a decent amount of sustain. Also, your regen is 20% stronger than the average player's regen because of this trait here, so you get that little benefit. That's a fun thing about the build. Mechanist has that as well. I believe Tempest might also, but you've got a stronger than usual regen, constant small barriers. Like that alone, a lot of situations you can get through just with those two things. The prot regen and constant small barriers will get you through a lot. And also, look, I'm just autoing and I'm almost at 25 stacks of might right now. Cleansing. Someone in chat mentioned cleansing. Worst cleansing class I've played so far. And I will tell you why. It does have cleanses. It has cleanse options. It has, if you go staff, the 4 is a cleanse. If you go to Centaur, this is a cleanse. Both of these take a massive amount of energy, so one, you have to make sure you're good at energy management. If you try to use one of these and your energy's low, you can't, so you keep the conditions. The second thing is neither of those are the default of what you're keeping on your bar. Your default is your Scepter, Shield, and Dragon Stance, Dragon Legend. So you have to swap to Staff for a cleanse, or swap to Centaur for a cleanse, or both. If you're fighting a boss that consistently pushes out small conditions, like Slothosaur, Condies, the Soulless Horror, just anything like that, Jade Junkyard, it did not feel good. Now, again, maybe I was a bad player. I might have just been playing poorly, completely possible. This is my first night playing this. But just, if there's many small applications of the boss throwing annoying condies at you, it was really annoying. It was really annoying. Nog says Staff is OP cleanse with Ventari Bubble. Okay. Again, that means swapping out of Scepter Shield and swapping out of Dragon Stance, which are the things that provide all your boons and barrier. So that you're swapping away from that. So like you have no cleansing in your default setup. You have to go to a different setup to do cleansing. And if you're fighting a boss that just constantly puts out conditions all the time, it is a juggle. So, well, I'm not saying it's impossible. Please don't think that I am. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it is more of a pain in my ass than every other class that I've played so far. So that's it. I'm just making comparisons here. I am just making comparisons. So, and I'm referring to it as the default setup because Staff, Shield, Dragon feels like the default setup. You could absolutely have Staff be your primary weapon if you wanted to. I was getting nearly 25 stacks of might even without the Scepter auto, so it wasn't a big deal. I mean, what would you give up there? You would give up some barrier application. You did not have to have Otherworldly Bond to keep up might and fury. You did not have to have Serene Slash to keep up might, but it helped. It made it easier for sure. Blossoming Aura is nice. Honestly, the Scepter as a weapon was very underwhelming. Like, I see why they made it look so long because it's really compensating. Like, it's compensating for performance. Like, it's just like, it was okay. Like, it's better than Mace or Axe, I guess, because they don't really do anything for support. But so it's like better than the alternatives, but it's just, it's okay. It does a little bit of support. It does a little bit of support, which is better than the alternatives that do no support. But yeah, the Revenant has a lot of tools. For example, if you've already got Darkness selected, which is giving your team Fury, and then they get CC'd, you can hit this to Sunbreak. If you're pumping Chaos to give them Prompt, you can actually use it as an interrupt. If you're running Facet for Swiftness, you can use it to throw down some soft CC in an area. If you're running Strength or double tap Strength, you give your team a burst of Strength, which is a 15% damage boost for 10 seconds. Facet of Light, you're probably going to keep up all the time, but if you accidentally walk into a bad situation, you can double tap it to become basically invulnerable for 3 seconds. There's a lot of weird tools in here. Facet of Nature, essentially, if you double tap this while in Dragon Stance, you add 2 seconds to all your boons for your whole party. So if anyone in your party is kind of slipping and they're not doing a great job keeping their boons up or whatever their job is, you're kind of helping cover for them, which is cool. There's really not many other classes that does anything like that. It was cool. But I will say, just again, just my review after trying it out, this was more difficult to learn than every other class I've tried so far. Having a couple of cleanses on longer cooldowns rather than a more consistent source of cleansing. Example, Chrono, 3 times per 10-second window, they can use mantra, the healing mantra, to cleanse their entire party. 3 times per 10 seconds. And they can do that with any weapon in their hand. Healing Spring from Ranger, cures 60 conditions in an area over 12 seconds. I like compare this to that, and it's like no contest. So I would say, you know, condition cleansing, you need a higher level of skill to perform that role well with this class than you do with other classes for the same amount of effort. And that's fine. That's just, you know, something to keep in mind. It's just something to keep in mind. Stability on the move with the tablet. I already went over that. You get the dwarf stance is of course famous for being really good with stability, where you put down the road. Tonight we were running strikes. I never felt like I needed dwarf stance, so I was running dragon and centaur. The centaur stance bubble was really awesome. Having this tool, the projectile block, felt awesome. I used it a lot on Bone Skinner and was able to, you know, block lots of projectiles. Like basically everyone that didn't stand in a puddle, like I was in a pug, so people stood in puddles, people died, but the people that didn't stand in puddles, I was able to keep them alive. And it was kind of, you know, juggling a lot of things because it was my first time doing Bone Skinner as a heal rev, but I kept me alive and I kept the people that didn't stand in puddles alive. And this always gave us a nice window to breathe, because we had a million ads up because they weren't killing ads well. And so that was, you know, that was really nice. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. More flexibility than other classes. Again, there are multiple trait lines you can run. There are multiple, like, you know, specializations that you could take, like just off, you know, invocation or corruption work here. They offer different styles. You can get your might and fury from different sources, changing your play style. All of those things were really cool. It has a massive toolbox, but you constantly need to be planning like 10 seconds ahead. Because like if you just left Centaur, or you just left Chalice, and then the boss does something where you need stability, tough cookies. You can't do anything about it. You know, if you need that projectile block, but your Centaur stance is on cooldown, tough luck. You can't do anything about that. You know, so just things like that. But, you know, absolutely viable, requires higher brain power than all those other supports that I've tried so far. You have to constantly plan ahead because of both the cooldowns on the legends and the energy system. Every noteworthy move takes energy, and if you don't have it, you're not allowed to press your buttons. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm probably not coming back to this class anytime soon. This really did not give me the urge like, oh boy, I can't wait to play this again in the future that the Warrior Staff did, or the Chrono entire build did, or anything like that. But it was a fun evening out, and I learned a lot. And yeah, as always, I don't know that I went over my stats. I was using mostly Harriers with a few pieces of Clerics, because you get a lot of free concentration with Herald. So I was at 100% boon duration, so I changed a lot of pieces of the Harriers to Clerics, but I was running a lot of Harriers. Scepter Shield Staff is what I was running, with Sigils of Renewal and Transference on the Staff, and Water and Transference on the Scepter and Shield, and this is the stuff I was using. But yeah, I welcome feedback. Again, I was a noob, and these are my thoughts and feelings after, you know, going from playing other supports for years to playing this for 3 hours, and how I feel about the class. But that's it. Leave me your critiques and comments in the section down below, and I will gobble them up. Thanks.